We had a particularly tasty trade happen, Sean. A big one. Kenny Pickett has gone to the Raiders. So hello and welcome to All Four Quarters, your one-stop shop for news, views, and overreactions to all things NFL. It's finally here, a new season, season 11 for us, and it's time to look at kickoff.
Woo.
So we got Connor here and we got Sean.
Oh,
How we getting on, Sean? How's all down in Cork?
yeah, not too bad. Autumn coming in, summer is most definitely gone. But yeah, just been dealing with the launch of my ebook for my novel, which once again for people interested, it's called Evening Star, all one word, and it's a kind of a literary sci-fi thing. So it was out in paperback for last month, but it's now been out on Kindle and Kobo and Apple Books and all the various ebook sites. So this is when the fun really begins, when I find out if there's an actual audience out there for the work. So no,
Very
been fun
exciting.
enough. And of course, my laptop decided to celebrate by crashing spectacularly this morning,
Yeah, we
according
weren't
to
sure if we were going to be able to get to record today or not, so that's good that we've got there. But
yeah.
yeah, it may not have long left for this world then, no.
I suspect. I hope it seems fine now. I mean, this could just be a situation where it'll happen again in like 2 or 3 weeks, or it could go for months. I really don't know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Well, fingers crossed it holds up, because obviously we've got a lot of football chatting to be doing over the next couple of months ourselves. Yeah, season's here, very exciting. Nothing too wild or crazy on my side. We've just been tipping away at work and stuff in the interim and getting out for a bit of golf and stuff like that. And now my wife is knee deep in marathon training at the moment, so for the Dublin Marathon at the end of October. So that's kind of most of what I've been up to. Nothing too wild or exciting. But what is exciting, Sean, is the new season is starting. It's finally here. We've been going through tumultuous drafting experiences. NFL.com, as we mentioned in a previous episode, have sold a lot of their media and fantasy assets to ESPN in this kind of top-down co-merger thing where they take an ownership stake. But what that means is NFL Fantasy Football app is going to be gone next year essentially. So it will not exist. It'll be merged into ESPN or everything will just be pushed onto that platform. And it would very much appear that NFL Fantasy have just decided to go, Grand, well, that means none of us have to work anymore.
Mm.
We're just going to stop. So I've had two separate drafts now. Just fail to work entirely, lock people out and start auto drafting them to the extent that one that I am redoing tonight has decided if it doesn't work tonight, they're just going to do an offline draft and the commissioner will have to upload it manually, which is not,
Ouch,
not
ouch,
not not where
ouch.
you want to be in a 16-man league. But yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see how that goes. But
You just hope it'll run properly during the season itself. I mean, if this
hmm.
is just a harbinger of problems to come, you know.
Yeah. Like to be honest, like this always happens around September in it anyway. As I recall, every week one, you'll try and have a look and see how your fantasy team is doing, even though you promised yourself you wouldn't, and it will not load for love nor money because there's too many people looking at it and they just don't want to bother. But then by about week three or four, most of the casuals have stopped caring or stopped looking, and you're a bit more free and easy at it. But that's enough about fantasy, Sean. We're not a fantasy podcast; we're a football podcast. So let's talk about football and crime and punishment. What are they doing? Probably felonies, not football. Rashee Rice has accepted a 6 game suspension for his car crash incident in Texas a year and a bit ago. This means he'll return in week 7 against the Raiders. Uh, One positive coming out of this, it does put Pat, to any of the discussions about the NFL is rigged to try and help the Kansas City Chiefs as they are facing into one of the toughest opening slates of games as they're going to be missing their wide receiver one for all of those. Just for reference, they are uh, uh, in Brazil at the Chargers. They have the Eagles, the Bear. Oh, sorry, that's a preseason one. They have the Eagles, the Ravens, the Lions, the Jags. Uh, the Raiders, the Commanders, and the Bills during that period. So that's going to be a fun mixture. Oh, sorry, Chargers, Eagles, Ravens, Jags, Lions. Yeah, so like that's it's not going to be a fun run to be without him. That said, look, they survived all of last year without having him on the field, so hopefully they'll be able to survive through that. It does seem a tad strong by comparison to other um, uh, car-related speeding or crash incidents. 6 games is more than most players have received for domestic violence in the league. So, like, I'm not going to say don't do it. I think it's good they're taking them seriously. I hope this reflects the NFL is going to be more harsh in general on punishments for things like this. But it seems out of whack with what the standard is. But I suppose you got to change the standard at some point, and why not this one?
I mean, he was racing on a highway. I mean, that's not a small thing to be doing. But I mean, it is interesting that he's actually so he's got his sentence was like I think like 30 days suspended jail time and like a fine of something in the order of 100K to pay towards victims' medical expenses. But he'll actually lose out about 4 times that much from his salary from the suspension. So it is actually compared to the criminal charges he's facing. This is actually a more serious punishment, but which is odd in its
Mm.
way. But yeah, I mean it's good in one way that he had the I guess the maturity to they made a deal basically. He was willing to step up and say, look, we need to come to some sort of agreement here without needing to go to the formal disciplinary side of it, which maybe he did that as calculating he'd get a little bit less as a result. But yeah, I'm not, I don't think we should underplay exactly what he did in terms of the danger and what he
Oh, not at
did.
all. No, it's incredibly dangerous. It was just more that like there's there's similar like speeding and one in particular. I believe there's a Ravens player who's caught 110 miles an hour and driving under the influence and was given a 3 game suspension. So it just seems a bit out of whack, but I think hopefully it's a reflection, like I said, of the NFL taking these things more seriously and keeping this kind of approach down the line rather than it just being a
Mm.
one-off. Speaking of the Chiefs playing the Chargers in Brazil, the Chargers are now facing a class action lawsuit over their game against the Chiefs in Brazil. So essentially, what's happened here is the Chargers, a large group of Chargers season ticket holders, are taking a class action suit against the Chargers because they sold them their season tickets. This is obviously a home game that's going abroad, so this is a home game for the Chargers that's taking place in Brazil, uh, and they have refused to refund any of the season ticket money that the guys are having to pay for their season tickets, and not allowing them to opt out or anything like that. So basically, they're just saying, look, we were sold a bill of goods and we're not getting the bill of goods. We were promised 9 home games, we're not getting 9 home games. And yeah, rather than just do the normal thing of, yeah, that's fair, here's 1/9 of the ticket price back, they are taking them to court.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the funniest part of all of this is that it turns out the Chargers do have fans, or at least they have at least one fan.
Yeah.
Um,
I think they need at least 5 for it to be declared a class action. So at least 5.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, given that they've been struggling to find people in the crowds that were actually cheering for the Chargers, that's something else. Yeah, I mean, as you say, there's a very easy way to have solved this, and America is such a country built upon, litigation and money-solving problems that it really does seem that you could just give them the percentage back, and not. I don't know what the clamping down on it idea was behind it. I mean, it just kind of seems stupid, really. Although apparently, um, well, there are some examples of other teams doing better. I mean, the Packers simply reduced the overall price of their packages to exclude international games when they were going abroad, and the Colts I think did offer refunds. So there is some examples of when this has happened,
Hmm.
and it does seem just a little bit just petty to kind of stand against it. Um, I mean, if you're going to offer 9 games, then you pretty much do have to deliver
Mm.
9 games. So I'm definitely can't see how the Chargers have much of a leg to
Yeah,
stand on in this
it's
case.
just
Yeah.
it's just silly. Like I said, like this is a team that's struggling to build a fan base, and all they're doing is pissing off the people who are actually willing to pay for season tickets for them. Yeah, it's just shooting themselves in the foot. It's a truly cursed franchise. We have a lot of transactions and stuff to talk about because obviously there's a this time of year, people holding out, people get paid, and so on. There's a couple of ones that we'll get out of the way first, and then we'll talk about the big one. So we've got the Bengals finally decided to stop all the silliness and have paid Trey Hendrickson. They're going to give him $14 million more this year, bringing him to 30 million a year for this year. But they are not extending him. It's a 1 year rental. They apparently weren't really entertaining discussions about paying him into it. They had a proposal sent to his people where he would be paid 30 million this year and then would be paid like 15 million next year or something. And he said, no, of course not. It does mean, look, there's a bit of a cap now. This will be kind of like the last bite of the apple for Hendrickson. He will be a free agent next year. He will be able to try and get something, but at that stage, like he's already a little bit long in the tooth. It'll be more difficult to get a long-term deal out of it. So look, he's happy. His comments in the media afterwards were great. He's like, "I'm so happy to be back with the Bengals for 2025." Like everything was just qualified with for 2025. It was great. But yeah, like it's so stupid that it took this long and they've missed the run up and everything. Like it's just very, very, very bad management by this Bengals team again.
I mean, if we've learned anything about the Bengals in the Joe Burrow era, is that they're horribly mismanaged, and that they're basically shitting away their one chance to have a Super Bowl caliber team. And it seems like they pivoted this kind of last few off seasons towards, okay, let's just pay our top guys all the money they want, just to try and get enough of them on the field at the same time. Like an awful lot of the offense as well is just kind of dumping money on Burrow or Chase, or T. Higgins, just to get them to stick around, which means they have a very top heavy team on both sides of the ball now, where they have stars, but they've had to kind of cut corners elsewhere in order to make the cap work. And this kind of leans into that. It does suggest that the Bengals seem to be in win now mode, which, given how all over the shop they were last year, is maybe taking a step too far. Because if it doesn't work out, then they lose their star defensive player, and they don't have an awful lot to compensate themselves for it. So it's a gamble, and I don't necessarily think the Bengals have really thought it through in terms of how this is actually going to work. But this is typical, as you said, it's typical Bengals. They don't really have a long term plan. They're really just flailing around the place, being like, I can't believe we have a good team. Let's just try and make sure this team holds together for as long as possible, without actually thinking about how they might actually strategically build a team that might be able to win a Super Bowl. And I can see them, you know, Hendrickson being good, the Bengals being good, but this being ultimately a waste.
Yeah, the Bengals, as I recall, used to have a stance. I believe it was up until very, very recently. It was one of the sticking points on the T Higgins contract, was that they didn't want to pay or guarantee any money past the second year of a contract, which says it all about the idea of long-term planning for a team. If that's just your brass paid bottom line. Another holdout that or hold in that's gotten sorted. Terry McLaurin, the All-Pro wide receiver for the Washington Commanders, has agreed to a 3-year extension worth over $96 million. He gets paid. He's happy. They get to keep the wide receiver one that had such great chemistry with their rookie quarterback. Obviously, with the rookie quarterback, they have the money to do these kind of things. This was an inevitability to get done. Just happy to see it done before the season starts. I just hope that it doesn't mean we might see a slow start to Terry McLaurin, because he hasn't been practicing. He's only really had the last week of getting up to speed. But he's a veteran. He should know what he's about.
Yeah, no, it's a good piece of business for the Commanders. As we talked about, they need to build on what they managed to achieve out of nowhere last year, and McLaurin is a big part of that, kind of the veteran transition into a new team, and keeping the WR1 on board for a young quarterback, I think, is, especially with a relation that works as well as the one between Dennis and McLaurin, I think it's a very important hold on.
And All-Pro safety Kyle Hamilton, the Ravens agreed to a 4-year, $100.4 million extension. I imagine the point four is so that they can say it's the largest ever for a safety in NFL history. Uh, but yeah, like good business. Kyle Hamilton's very good, locks him down, keeps him there through his prime. I presume the terms of the contract mean they'll be able to get out if it starts to drop off at the tail end and so on. But like, yeah, I think good job all round on this one. Makes sense. They had the money to do it, and why not lock in the talent?
Yeah, I mean, he is, I mean, unquestionably the guy, you know, that there's so much hype coming out of college about what this guy's versatility, and he was such a good player, especially under the in the Mike McDonald era, when McDonald had all those kind of crazy schemes. Hamilton was such a big part of what they were doing and what made the Ravens so difficult to play defensively, because he was so versatile. So he's definitely worth it in terms of the money. And I mean, it's like 80 something million in guaranteed money, which I think is more than the actual amount being a record. I think that's the thing that's actually the wow factor, is that they're not just giving this guy an extension, they're giving him all the money basically of that extension in guaranteed, so to ensure that he gets his worth. But yeah, definitely a player worthy of it, and he will have a long career ahead of him, no doubt.
We had a particularly tasty trade happen, Sean. A big one. Kenny Pickett has gone to the Raiders for a fifth rounder in return to the Browns. Wizardry from the Browns front office. They traded a fifth round pick to pick him up. They've gotten a fifth round pick back for him. Uh,
Wow, that's nine-dimensional. That's nine-dimensional chess because they didn't need him because they had six quarterbacks.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's free money basically.
It is, yeah, it's insane. Frankly, it is insane that the Raiders sent a fifth round to for him because, like, realistically, this guy was getting cut.
Yeah, to a guy you could have picked up a week later for
Yeah.
free.
Also, I'm
Absolutely.
not necessarily sure that like I would want Kenny Pickett for a fifth rounder versus Mike DeVito for free. Like, I don't think it's a huge upgrade. This guy didn't look the business anytime he's been on the field. He couldn't make that roster. He's been injured. This is terrible business on the part of the Raiders. Surprisingly, okay business on the part of the Browns. So like, that's not the big one. The big one was Adam Thielen is returning to the Vikings. He's gone over for a 2026 fifth rounder and 2027 fourth rounder. Um, yeah, obviously the Carolina Panthers are happy with their wide receiver core, or at least happy enough to part
He's
ways with Thielen.
35 years old.
Yeah, he's
Can we?
ancient.
Yeah, it's not good work.
The interesting thing as well, if I recall, Adam Thielen took a pay cut then for the Vikings. So he moved to the Vikings and he's taken a pay cut after the trade, which is a very unusual situation altogether. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe some backhanded dealings. Wide receiver Tim Patrick has been traded from the traded to the Jags. The Lions got a sixth round pick back in return for him. This is obviously stock up on Tesla, the young wide receiver who's going to be probably rotating as their third wide receiver in place of Tim Patrick, who was more than they needed at that point. The Jags pick up another person, so I think works out well for both sides. A six rounder, I think it's a conditional six rounder as well. Is not a wild pile, so good business. I think that's all the trades that happened, right?
Yeah. Some random jabroni got sent to the Packers, but not
Yeah,
a big deal.
Michael Person, I believe, is what Jera said. Yeah, so the holdout of Micah Parsons has ended, but not in the way that you were expecting it to. He's actually been traded, and this was the big one that happened. So the Packers have traded for Micah Parsons. They've sent two first round picks and defensive tackle Kenny Clark over to Dallas for him, and Parsons was given a monster 4-year contract, $188 million with 136 million guaranteed. That is $47 million a year, which just for kind of comparison's sake, that is nowhere near anyone else in that category outside of like TJ Watt is the closest, and TJ Watt would be nearly 6 million a year cheaper, and we were laughing at how much money they gave TJ Watt. Now, Micah Parsons is far younger, hitting the prime of his career, a proper kind of top two or three at his position, defensive player, and it's huge. But it does mean that we are looking at a, a defensive pass rusher who is being paid uh, he slots in just between Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray in terms of what they're being
Mm.
paid. He's 2 million a year more expensive than Pat Mahomes, 5 million more a year than Matt Stafford, 6 million or more than Jamar Chase. I suppose Miles Garrett is then maybe the most comparable, but again, he's on 40 million. He's age 29, and that was an overpay to try and keep the franchise happy. This is a lot of money locked up for a guy who is coming in and is a game wrecker, is an absolutely fantastic player. And I think the Cowboys were very silly for letting him go. But he has a back injury and is likely to be on a snap count to start the season and will have to be taking injections of painkillers to go and play at the moment. So like there is risk attached to this as well as paying a huge amount of money. But this is a game changing defensive piece, and if this works out, and they should have him in that 4-year window, 26 to 30, that's kind of the prime of most pass rushers' careers. There are some that have kind of topped out after the first 4 years, but the vast majority hit their stead. Then this could make a huge difference to the defense of Green Bay and maybe help push them over the edge in an incredibly competitive NFC North. And for the Cowboys, increased questions on what that defense is going to look like. Yeah, Kenny Clark is there. He's good. He'll help you against the run, which is a weakness. And Jerry did actually point that out. That was correct. But like, when Jerry comes out afterwards and says those are two great picks we got, we could probably find two Pro Bowl level players there. Like, yeah, Jerry, or you could have a fucking, Hall of Fame track top defensive player in the league kind of guy like you just had, if you'd only allow him to take his agent into your office when you want to discuss contracts with him.
Yeah, I do have to say, if there's ever going to be like, you know, legal proceedings against Jerry Jones to get him to give up control of the Cowboys because of his dementia, this will be a piece of evidence number one that will be held up, that he made this decision to allow this thing to happen. Something so bad that even the Madden video game doesn't allow it as a legitimate trade. Parsons is, as you said, he's a Hall of Famer. He is a generational talent at his position. He's coming into the prime of his career. The Cowboys are, they need all the help that they can get to make, can maintain pace with the Eagles and come into some kind of relevance and maybe win a playoff game or two. And they've thrown the franchise away. Basically, they've thrown their best player away for, okay, two firsts, admittedly, but it's Packers first. They're going to be low first round picks, because the Packers will always make the playoffs, and now they will probably go quite deep in the playoffs. With this kind of talent on the defensive side. So for the Cowboys, this is just cataclysmically bad as a decision and really destroys any aspirations they had to competitiveness for a good long while, because this will, at least it will take them using those two first round picks well, in future, to get them back to some sort of level close to this in the future. But I the Cowboys' terrible move. For the Packers, brilliant. Like, we talked about in the previews about how their Jeff Hafley DC had put together a very good unit. He's well respected as a DC. The team had gone from being from one of the worst defenses to a top 10 defense, and we were all interested in seeing where the Packers went next defensively. To add someone like Parsons to that mix, that kind of explosiveness, and then for the Packers to have what they have offensively, in Jordan Love, etc., and to have the coaching of LaFleur, this is suddenly a very competitive team. This is suddenly a team that will be competing with the Lions to win their division very clearly, has a shot at getting quite deep, maybe a Super Bowl run if the chips fall their way. Like, this is a really big move, for the Packers, and they've done well out of it. They might suffer down the line by not having those first round picks, but they've definitely made themselves a win now competitive team with this move. So for me, Packers win this trade hands down. Cowboys are, this is a joke. They are running joke, just how badly managed this franchise is for an organization so popular that they could basically get any player they wanted to, because everyone wants to play for the Cowboys. This is just an absolute joke how badly this organization is run.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny as well that Green Bay finally this year used a first round pick on a wide receiver and now don't have that option for the next 3 years. But no, yeah, I think it's a huge trade. It's the kind of one that you don't see happen very often at all. Like, normally a player of this caliber would not be getting moved at all. It's a bit baffling, but hey, look. Jerry's playing four-dimensional chess that only rich people can afford, or whatever. We'll move on and have a look at some of the injuries from around the league. Obviously, some of these are going to be relevant to you from fantasy perspective. Some of them will be relevant to you because your team's there. Some of these guys, you just be like, oh, we're going to be playing them. It's good that that guy's going to be there or not there. So just a couple of ones for the start of the season, starting on injured reserve. So what that means is these players can be designated to return, but they're gone for at least 4 weeks. Tajay Spears, running back for the Titans, he's been injured since early August. Was meant to be kind of the 1-2 in that backfield. So they've got a couple of rookies and lesser known guys like Chestnut and stuff in there, but it's going to essentially be Tony Pollard trying to lead them. So this is a big shot to the Titans' run game, particularly with a young quarterback coming in. It's not great.
Elsewhere, in terms of what we're looking at, I mean, obviously McMillan was expected to be kind of a bigger part of the books going forward, and Rashawn Slater is starting left tackle for the Chargers. So
Yeah,
there are some losses there that are going to
some big
going
ones
to
like
hurt quite a bit.
Slater is a huge loss to the Chargers, particularly given what their identity want to be with Slater and Joe Alt and having those big tackles and impose at the line, and then Marion Hampton, the rookie running back, is going to be coming in. Although we also have heard that apparently their other running back is back. He does have two eyes and is hoping to play on Friday or Thursday. Yeah, Friday night. But yeah, like a couple of these about Jalen McMillan, the Bucks have a couple of depth pieces at wide receiver, a couple of young ones who are coming up, so they're hoping to have. And Caleb McGarry, the right tackle for the Falcons, is going to be a problem as well. And the Bills defense, like the poor Bills defense, they're not in a great shape to start with, particularly their defensive backfield. Maxwell Hairston is gone for the first 4 weeks as well. That's a killer.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because people are really talking about up the Bills this year as championship contenders, but they start with the Ravens week one, and I mean you don't want to be weak on the defensive side when you're facing the Ravens, and they do have quite a reasonably tough schedule at the start of the season as well.
Mm.
So you want momentum. I mean. If the Bills are anything, they're a momentum team, and to get into the hole early might be a problem for them in terms of doing all they can do to be live when it comes to the end of the season. So no, I mean of these players. So you look at Spears, McMillan, Slater, McGarry, Hairston. Slater's the big one that missing out one, but all these
Mm.
pieces they're definitely hurting them in particular ways. And I mean, it says it can return in 4 weeks. There's no guarantee these players will be back
Yeah.
in week five. Is the other thing, you know.
That's it. It just means that they are allowed to. You get a fixed number for anyone who's unaware of how it works now. You get a fixed number of IR designations to return in the season. So it doesn't have to be used now. Just these are players who they want to keep on the roster and be able to bring them back in week 4 or 5. If they weren't keeping them on the roster, they'd be free to sign with other teams, or if they're still on rookie contracts or whatever, they'd be going through a waiver process where other teams could pick them up and so on. So yeah, that's kind of why they're doing that. But it does like this normally denotes that they're expecting them to come back this year. Uh, and in most cases, they're hoping for sooner rather than later. The other group that have just got a couple of names of note in are starting on reserve pup list, so that's a physically unable to perform list, or the reserve non-footballing injury list. These have slightly different rules going into it. It means that they were not able to join the team. So these can be longer term injuries, or these can be uh, essentially a non-footballing injury means that the person could have been injured prior to returning to practice or injured from the previous year, and they don't have to use up an IR to return designated spot on them. So Joe Mixon, the running back for the Texans, who found great success last year, he's been out the entire time. So it looks like it's going to be Nick Chubb leading the backfield with Woody. Oh, I can't remember.
Marks,
Woody
Woody
Marks
Marks.
backing him
Yeah.
up. Brandon Ayuk, the wide receiver of the 49ers, is sitting on this list, and all the insider chatter seems to be that it's going to be late in the season when Ayuk is back. They gave him a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
have
money.
in one of the fantasy leagues, and the fantasy guys say at least 6 weeks before he's
Yeah,
he's going to be competitive. Yeah.
it's which is a worry because they've spent an awful lot of money on him. Christian Watson, the wide receiver for the Packers, is out. They do have a bit of depth there, obviously having signed Golden and having just a million like wide receiver twos for some reason. But yeah, like more for Christian Watson himself, it's making sure he keeps his place on the team and so on. Tank Dell, the wide receiver of the Texans, is on this list as well. He's obviously coming back from an injury, so we'll see if we get further news on him. There's worries that that might not even be this season. And Taysom Hill, the tight end slash quarterback slash whatever you need, coach, put me in for the Saints. He's out on this list as well at the moment, so we'll see less jiggery pokery from the Saints this year. Only other bits of news I'll mention, Sean, is Spencer Rattler has been named the starter in New Orleans. Does that get you excited for New Orleans?
I can't say that it does. He was 0-6 when he was
Yeah,
starting previously.
you're
Yeah.
a Tyler Shook believer.
I'm a believer that they should get a proper quarterback. Is what
Yeah,
I'm a
that's
believer of.
fair.
They're
Uh,
obviously they're obviously tanking. They've got such cap problems. They're obviously just tanking this season. Let's
yeah.
let's not think about them too much. I think.
Dylan Gabriel has won the backup job in Cleveland. Obviously, there was
Yeah.
a lot of coverage of Deion Sanders' son, Shador
Shador Sanders
Sanders.
was robbed, according
Yeah,
to the internet.
so there's a lot of angry people on the internet who believe Shador
Yeah,
is
I
being
recall
robbed.
he played one of the preseason games, and all of the coverage is people complaining about how bad his O line is and how they were all
Yeah,
cut afterwards. And it's like it's a preseason game. He's not that good.
yeah. There was
Yeah.
conspiracy theories that it was being set up because they didn't want him to succeed, so they told the O lineman to not block correctly for him, and a lot of ex NFL O linemen were on that, just going like, oh yeah, that happened all the time, I'm sure, wink wink. Um, But yeah, it's just ridiculous stuff. Look, Dylan Gabriel doesn't look wildly exciting, but he knows how to run the offense more effectively than Sanders. Sanders has probably more upside than Dylan Gabriel, but he's not NFL ready at the moment,
Well,
and that's what's
I mean, the
happening.
big thing of this is that they obviously picked Gabriel and to a lesser extent Standers over Kenny Pickett. And Kenny Pickett is, we know the level Kenny Pickett is at, right?
Yeah.
So that would suggest that Dylan Gabriel is slightly, at least slightly better potential wise than
Hmm.
Kenny Pickett. So I mean, it's potentially good news. They might have somebody who, when Joe Flacco's knees eventually give out, they have
In
someone to
like
stick
week
in there.
two.
But yeah, it's well, the Brown situation is just a mess. We've talked
It
about
is,
that
yeah. And
delightfully.
Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift have gotten engaged. It was announced
Who?
online. Yeah, I've never heard of him. Apparently, he plays tight end for the Chiefs. But yeah, so they've gotten engaged. It's people are happy, people are sad, people are in meltdown. It's very exciting all round. Many memes.
I mean, the more interesting things are the rumors are there that she's going to do the Super Bowl 60 halftime
Yeah,
show, which
which would
is
be
that's what
class if
the
she would.
internet is
Yeah.
losing their mind about, and all the little clues apparently she's leaving in videos and such like pointing
Mm.
to it.
I suppose she's finished up the ginormous world tour now, so would be around and so on. Versus having to disrupt the tour to come and do a 20-minute show at the Super Bowl in the last 2 years. But we'll see, we'll see. But yeah, no, it's getting a lot of coverage, and congrats to the guys. Should be good. I think if you're interested in investing, I would say trends are dictated by the people that people follow. So start investing in Pampers, start investing in wedding venues. Just kind of get diversify your portfolio to allow for what is the inevitable outcome of of this happening. Um, and I suppose just before we move in and start looking at the previews for the week one of games, uh, we did all of our divisional and team previews and so on, but we always like to just kind of pick a few of the big prizes for the year and kind of nail our colors to the mast on who we think are going to get there. So, Super Bowl winner, Sean, we'll start with that. You have gone for.
I've gone for the Eagles because they're the Eagles. You know, they've got all of the talent back from last year. They demonstrated last year how good they are. They got all that talent back. I just don't see anyone at that level.
Mm,
As I said in the previews, I think they're going to be a really hard team to beat, and I'm predicting they'll go all the way. I do think that they will beat the team that you guys have picked to win in the Super Bowl,
interesting.
but certainly I think the Eagles are the team to beat. Would definitely be my sense of
Mm.
it.
I think the Eagles are going to be a little bit less good than they were last year, but we'll see. We'll see. Myself and Ronan have both gone for Buffalo. Part of this is it'll be nice to see. The other part is just hope. I was kind of hemming and hawing, to be honest. I think I'm gonna just for diversity's sake, I'm gonna swap mine around here. So Ronan's gone for Buffalo. I've gone for Kansas City to come back streaming this year, angry and get back to the big game and win it this time. So that'll be fun.
I kind of think the Bills are more likely to win than the Chiefs, but okay,
Well, they've only got like four defensive players to man a
it's
defense at
true.
the
It's true.
moment, so we'll
No,
see.
like the Bills, we've been on the Bills for like the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Every like second or third year, people are like, "Oh, this is the Bills' year." It's never the Bills' year.
No.
Come on.
They have the pieces. I think what we'll need to see for the Bills to be able to get there is we're going to need to see that defense turn a corner around week 10 or so. That like there's just so many new pieces and young guys and trying to just fill in gaps that yeah, it's just the defense worries me that eh, I'm sure they can put up a lot of points, but it's just being able to stop other people scoring at the top end. Okay, MVP.
I think it's a hard pick because it's kind of you have to figure out which team will be best in regular season and which quarterback is most conducive to that. I've decided to give the Bengals the benefit of the doubt and decided this is going to be a good Bengals year. And if it's a good Bengals year, that means it's going to be a really good Joe Burrow year. And given they gave it MVP to Josh Allen last year, they're less likely to give it to him again. And nobody wants to give it to Mahomes. So I think Joe Burrow will lead the Bengals to the AFC North title impressively, and he'll get the MVP from that.
Okay, we have Ronan taking Josh Allen. Yeah, I can see it. Like, tends to have good stat lines and so on. Particularly as he's got them winning the Super Bowl, they'll be on a heater. They'll have a couple of big games. They'll always be visible in them. So that'll be. I could see it. I just I'm not sure. Did he win last year? Am I right in saying?
He did,
Yeah,
yeah, he
he
did
did. Yeah,
win, yeah.
yeah. Because I was going to say, I think yeah, our Sunday night matchup this week is the last two MVPs against each other, which is an incredibly spicy game to put in on week one. But
Mm-hmm.
now I've decided to go for MVP Jamar Chase. Uh,
Ooh,
I know
controversial.
I've decided to go out of left
A
field,
non-quarterback
having a
MVP? I
non-quarterback.
don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
So I have a feeling that Jamar Chase can get because he got the triple crown. Was it 2 years ago? Uh, maybe last year, where he got all the most receptions, most touchdowns, most yards, or whatever. I think maybe he got two or three. So I think if he can do that this year,
Yeah,
particularly
no,
I
he won it in 2024, which was last
yeah.
year. Yeah.
So I've got a feeling, I don't know what it is, and I'm sorry to curse your MVP pick here, Sean. I got a feeling that Joe Burrow goes down at some point this season. I don't trust their
I'm sorry,
offensive
Connor. If Joe
line.
Burrow's going down, Jamar Chase is not winning
I
MVP
think I
because.
think I think that's the narrative that wins him MVP. I think the fact that he still pulls that
Oh,
off with I'm gonna have to pull up a depth chart to see who their backup is, but like if he who whatever jabroni is throwing him the ball, I think in that case it would have to go his way.
I
Like, look,
think
this is a silly choice because I know
it's
I'm giving
Jake Browning. I think is it?
oh, Jake
Yeah.
Browning, yeah, yeah. Look, if he can win the triple crown with Jake Browning throwing him the ball for 5 or 6 games, I think he deserves it. But yeah, look, realistic, it's going to be a quarterback. It's just more that since I swapped my Super Bowl pick to Kansas City, I couldn't leave MVP as Pat Mahomes.
It's true. It's true.
Coach of the year, uh, Little Homer.
Yeah, I kind of think that there are probably two leading contenders for this. One is Ben Johnson of the Bears, and the other is Mike Vrabel of the Pats. And I just don't think the Bears are going to quite click this. I don't think there's going to be a standout coach of the year. Like the problem is all the good coaches are coaching good teams at the moment and are established good
Mm,
teams. Like for example, Dan Campbell would be a contender for this kind of maybe 2 years ago, but the Lions are now an established good team. So if he brings them to a 14 win record, he's not going to win coach of the year again. It's usually given to someone who's pulls a team to exceed the sum of their parts. And for me, a lot of people talk about Ben Johnson is going to turn the Bears around. I just don't quite see that yet. But the one thing I do see is the Pats are going to improve quite a bit under Mike Vrabel, and I want to acknowledge that. Admittedly, a bit of a home fan bias thing. I kind of want this to happen, but I think the narrative of Vrabel coming back to New England, the true heir of Belichick, as it were, to finally turn this franchise back into a winning organization, maybe make the playoffs. I think that would be enough for him to get coach of the year because I don't think there are going to be too many outstanding candidates short of something like Jim Harbaugh, bringing the Chargers to the number one overall seed or something, which could happen.
mm.
Certainly, I can't see there's too many other outstanding candidates for coach of the year, so I'm going to go with Vrabel.
Yeah, I decided because you were going for Vrabel to not go for Vrabel because I do think, like I said, like in my previews, I have New England making the playoffs, and I think if he makes the playoffs, that's enough for him to
Oh
win
yeah,
this award.
yeah, yeah.
I just went with Ben Johnson just because I think he's the other kind of favorite for this, and just to discuss why. So obviously, highly touted coach coming in, finally gets to run his own team, has been making an awful lot of moves. Obviously, the big adjustments to the line, the use the scheme he's going to put in and all kind of stuff. There's going to be a lot of eyes on it, so it's going to be very, very visible. Now, yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm not sure they've got the pieces right to launch into it this year, but I think he's in a good position if he can get things working in the right way to have the right eyeballs be watching at those times. Whereas I think uh, Vrabel's narrative isn't quite as fun. Obviously, it's returning back home, but like this is a guy who was running the world's most boring playoff making team for several years. Like there is Vrabel fatigue from his time at Tennessee, I
That's
think,
true. It's true.
which means that if these two are doing an equally good job, I think they'll go with the Ben Johnson stuff. And also for some reason he's very good, but he is absolutely beloved by the league. Like everyone is just enamored with this man. And our downside one, first overall pick, who's going to be the worst team this year?
I've decided to go for sticking with the team that I had as the worst team in my previews. I had them winning 2 games because it's just a joke shop all over the place. There are many contenders. The Saints could be absolutely abysmal. The Browns could be absolutely abysmal. The Colts look like they're actively tanking to get Arch Manning, although they may not want Arch Manning anymore after his performance last weekend. But I'm going to go with the Big Blue New York Giants.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with the big horseshoes, the Colts. I think, yeah, it's not looking good for them. When you come out and confidently say Danny Dimes is our starter for the rest of the season, is it's a
Yeah,
bad
that's the
sign.
final nail in Anthony Richardson's career coffin. I think that
Yeah,
that just that statement alone. Yeah.
it's just rough going. Okay, well, on that lovely note, let's move over and have a quick preview of all the games coming up this week. Okay, because it's week one, we're just going to do a quick overview of each of the games that are happening, and we can kind of chime in. We'll each take a lead on different ones. So I'll start us off with the opening game, Thursday Night Football, Cowboys at Eagles, big divisional game to open out this season. I always think it's overkill when they do something like this. Like realistically, I would watch the Jags Browns if it was the opening game of the season. But Cowboys at Eagles is exciting. Maybe slightly less exciting now that Parsons is gone. It should be a fireworky heavy performance. So obviously, Eagles fans are famously very reserved and well behaved, and they will be, hoisting the banners and so on. They hate the Cowboys. This is a long established thing, and it's going to be exciting because I think this Parsons-less defense is going to be bad. The Eagles are going to be able to score quite a lot of points, but equally, I said this in the previews. I think this Cowboys offense should be very exciting this year. I think Dak Prescott, people often forget pre-injury, he was getting, MVP hype and getting votes for those kind of things. Like this is a guy who can put up numbers, is well rested, has, recovered from the injury and so on. They've added a second wide receiver. I don't really know what they're doing at running back still. It's a bit all over the shop, but like I don't think that's going to matter much because I don't think this defense is stopping a cold. So I think they're going to have to be out there throwing the ball around trying to score a huge amount of points. And one of the weaknesses I think that's on this Eagles team is they've lost some of the defensive talent they had beforehand. So I expect the Eagles to be able to win this, Sean, but I expect this to be fireworks. I expect there to be a lot of ball in the air. I expect this to be exciting.
Yeah. No, I mean it's going to be a big game. These divisional rivalries are always major events. The Cowboys are obviously this is the team that they're chasing, particularly with the divisional, the NFC thing, NFC East thing, that the Cowboys believe it's their division, and the Eagles have really become the big dogs. And the Cowboys, as we talked about the preview, spent an awful lot of time bulking up both their offensive and defensive lines in order to be able to compete in the trenches in kind of the physical game that they expect the Eagles are going to throw at them. So to a certain extent, the Cowboys have built themselves to try and beat the Eagles. The problem is they then took Micah Parsons out of the equation, thereby incredibly hampering themselves on the defensive side. I can't imagine where the morale is in Dallas right now. It's
No.
like, what are we doing? What is this organization? What is the plan? Um, and so the Eagles are going to come in fresh off of a really impressive Super Bowl win. All the pieces are back in place. They're ready for another year. That there's always the fear with the Eagles that the wheels will come off because Sirianni will start a feud with somebody, and something will happen in the back office that will cause everyone to hate each other again. But that tends to be a kind of week 11 phenomenon. It tends not
Yeah.
to be a week one phenomenon. So I think the Eagles at home celebrating their championship with a team that's really clicked together against a Cowboy team which is less talented and is in a very bad place kind of psychologically. I think the Eagles should be comfortable enough in this game to win it because I just don't really see how the Cowboys actually beat the Eagles unless they get it on the trenches and it's like a really low scoring game. But even then, you still believe that Barkley, that Jalen Hurts or whatever, that they'll find a way to get it done on the offensive side enough to score the points they need to win the game.
Yeah, no, so we've gone Philly across the board. Next up is Friday Night Football, Chiefs at Chargers in Brazil.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge divisional game that they're kind of throwing away week one. The Chargers Chiefs tend to be quite well, maybe that generally speaking, more often than not, tend to be quite exciting games. At least back in the day, the Philip Rivers days, they tend to be quite high scoring games. Obviously, these are two teams in very different places. The Chiefs coming off a very big Super Bowl blowout, a kind of a humiliation on the biggest stage. The question is, how does this team then move forward? How does Reed, Mahomes, Spags, etc. How do they pick up the pieces and decide how do we build a championship winning side out of this side that was clearly not good enough to win a championship last year? And how do they do that without Rashee Rice, probably one of their the most dynamic part of their offense? And but they now need to rely on kind of Travis Kelce, who's clearly past his best, or Hollywood Brown, or whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see how this offense works itself out, how the Chiefs manage to figure out how they're going to do things. They do have a tendency, I think, to start slowly on the offensive side because it sometimes takes a little while getting going. So that'll be interesting to watch. The other side of it is for me fascinating. I'm really interested in seeing where the Chargers go this year. I think Jim Harbaugh, as I've said before, I have a lot of time from him as a coach, and he's going to be um, it's year two. He's got the system in place now. He knows what he's working. They had a bad playoff loss that they got to get out of their system as well, and they've got this. They've built their running game right. They've got the Hampton, the rookie. They've got Najee Harris and his supposedly now functional eyes as a 1-2. You still got Justin Herbert, who can use still quite a good quarterback if they know how to use him, and they've got a bit more defensive muscle that Harbaugh's kind of instilled in them as well. So the Chargers are going to come into this game, I think, in a very kind of they'll be up for the fight and be up for a way to win. It'll be very interesting to see how that comes out. So for me, I'm interested in seeing are the Chargers for real this year? I think we'll get a good sense of if the Chargers can actually be a competitive top end of the AFC team out of how their performance goes here, even if they are missing their five most vociferous fans who are steaming themselves back in LA. And for the Chiefs, I want to see what this looks like because they've suffered. It's a bad loss and it's not a loss you shake off easily. I want to see, but we know the Chiefs. We know how good Andy Reid is. We know how good Pat Mahomes is. This team can bounce back. The question, I mean, is how will they bounce back? So it'll be interesting to see in this game.
Yeah, I think Chiefs are going to win this one. I think the missing of the tackle is going to hamper the Chargers. I don't think they've got enough stuff figured out to be able to make that big a change early on. I think because essentially this plays as a neutral site game, and I think the Chiefs have enough weapons to be able to get there. I was going to just have a check back and see just what the record has been. Do you want to take a guess, Sean? Let's say the
Oh
last
no.
22 games between these teams.
Oh, it's not good. I'd say the Chiefs have won 15 of them, maybe.
19 and 3 over the
Oh
last 22 games.
God.
The last time that the Chargers won more than two in a row, they were the San Diego Chargers. That
Ouch.
is rough going, and
Oh
that's it. The
God.
San
It's
Diego
just looking at
Chargers.
now. It's been 3 years since they've actually beaten them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while, but look, it's the NFL. It changes season to season. But yeah, I expect coming off a giant bye, Andy Reid will be able to work his magic. Next up, Dolphins at Colts. Two teams expected to disappoint this year. Early reports out of camp is that the Dolphins defense is looking very good. So the question is, will this Colts offense led by Danny Dimes be able to find any success? I think they'll find some, but not enough. This will be good for sorting out the lower end of the rankings. Kind of, we'll be able to stack who's in the 20s and who's pushing down towards the 30s. The Dolphins are generally better at this time of year anyway, so I imagine they should be able to walk this, even though it's an away game. Surprisingly enough, Indy are the betting favourites going into this at the moment. Not entirely
Phew.
sure why, having looked at both rosters, but I think the Colts are not a good roster, but we know what they are. The Dolphins are confusing and no one knows quite what they are at all. So I think that's maybe where that's coming from. Not going to be a high octane game. It would be exciting if we could see the start of the season being kind of the Dolphins of 2 or 3 years ago, where they come out quick and start firing everywhere. But I'm not sure that that's what we're going to see.
No, I mean the Dolphins, and we talked about in the previews. It feels like they're about 2 years past the prime of this Tua Tyreek Waddle thing. I think they've been figured out largely, and they don't really have too many answers beyond that. There's no real reason to be all that optimistic, other than the fact that defense is probably the stronger of the two units at the moment. But honestly, however bad the Dolphins fan must be feeling coming into the season, the Colts fans just be like, "What is this? What is this disgrace?" That Danny Dimes is your answer at quarterback. It's just bleak. I think the Colts really have only got the hope that maybe Jonathan Taylor, he's one of the best running backs in the league. You expect him to maybe get it. You could get up there towards the 2,000 yard mark. if he has a good
They've got
year.
the fancy young tight end. Maybe that'll help. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's pieces here, but I just don't trust. Obviously, you
Yeah.
can't trust a passing game that's built around
The
Daniel
ceiling of
Jones.
Daniel Dimes is the problem. Yeah.
I think they'll be decent defensively, and I think this could be a kind of a low-scoring game because the offenses probably aren't going to be that great. But surely the Dolphins are in a better place than the Colts are right now.
You'd hope so.
Surely.
You'd hope so. Steelers Jets up next, John.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers gets to come back to East Rutherford to bask in the glory and no doubt the screams and shouts of his adoring fans as he comes back and waves goodbye to the Jets one last time. I mean, they're going to boo the shit out of that guy.
Well, until they see
Um,
each other in
uh,
the playoffs, presumably, right?
yeah, so a lot of an interesting narrative here in terms of Rodgers' first game with the Steelers, which we all think or enough important people think could be a disaster, comes to the Jets, who were just a disaster waiting to happen. It's going to be interesting to see how Rodgers slots into this. You know, the various options. I mean, they've got Metcalf and Fryermuth and stuff in terms of the offense, how that will click. Rodgers had a lot of problems with clicking with the guy. He tends to have his wide receivers that he likes, and then he has the guys he's forced to work with. And there was an awful lot of last year where it was just Rodgers plus the young guys he didn't really want to work with, and the timing was just all over the place. It's going to be interesting to see if now that he's got maybe some more established names around him, that he might be able to click into gear a little bit faster. But I think he's past his peak anyway. I don't think this is a particularly good move for the Steelers. But it'll be interesting to see how good they will be with at the next step up in a quarterback to what they've had before. The Jets may be the more interesting team on both sides of the ball. We got Justin Fields. Is he the guy? Is he what the Jets are looking for? Make them exciting, I think, if nothing else. And they still got a lot of young offensive talent. Brees Hall and the such like to work off. So I think they could be quite interesting offensive, and they do also have, they're very promising young core defense that Robert Sala put an awful lot of effort into building, and they kind of had a bad year last year because the whole thing was disintegrating around them. But now
Mm,
it's interesting to see how they rebound. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, some of them are going to want to have Rodgers' number, right? They're going to
yeah, yeah.
want to punish that guy.
And
So I
and
think that's
so
going to be an interesting dynamic to
and
watch.
some
Yeah.
of them they'll have trained against him for like two off seasons and so on. So like they will
Yeah.
know tendencies and that. So it'll be interesting. It's a rare occasion you get a double revenge game. Obviously Rodgers coming from the Jets and Fields coming from the Steelers. So
Oh yeah,
again
yeah, yeah.
an interesting one for them. Again, like to put on week one in the early slot, like it's yeah, it's a bit
Yeah.
baffling to me. But I suppose they need to balance out the likes of Panthers at Jaguars. Bryce Young is looking to build on a strong end of the season last year. They did seem to have turned a bit of a corner. We think they'll be better, but we're not sure like it'll be a massive step up in terms of points. They've lost Thielen, but that means they need Tet McMillan to step up, the first round wide receiver they picked up, relying on him. Xavier Legette. I think they picked up Hunter Renfro as well. So like they've got some guys, Jatavian Sanders, the tight end, and so on. The big one's going to be what that defense looks like for them, and will it be able to stop anything on the Jag side? They've got a good pass rush. That's gonna cause problems for Bryce Young because he was having problems with that offensive line. It was better last year, but it wasn't great still. So this will be a good test for them early on to see what it is. We get to see if we get some two-way highlights from Travis Hunter. The big one for me is I'm just really interested to see because we've heard so much in the offseason about how they're splitting his training reps and his practice. I'd be interested to see what it looks like in game and how that's going to happen. And obviously, this is kind of it's not quite make or break for Trevor Lawrence, but like I think this is the season that we decide whether or not you know they need to start looking elsewhere. They've given him a
Yeah.
lot of money, but this is kind of the can Liam Cohen come in here and put his stamp on it? And we're
Well, I mean, this is the thing. You've got a guy from the Sean McVay tree who did a lot of great work with Baker Mayfield last year. He's literally been hired, Cohen has, to be the Trevor Lawrence whisperer, to be the guy who fixes this talent that everyone would thought was a 100% surefire thing and hasn't quite worked out that well. I think if Lawrence doesn't improve remarkably under Cohen, then there will have to be some serious questions asked about where the Jags are going
yeah.
in future. Yeah, absolutely.
Particularly how much they worked to get Cohen there. I think he would probably, at this stage, this many years into Lawrence's contract, and his attempts to show himself to be the guy that they thought he was. I think Cohen is probably in a more winning position of a power battle if that looks to be the problem. So Ronan's gone for Carolina, that we've gone for Jacksonville. Sorry, on the previous one you've gone for Jets, and we've both, and
Yeah,
myself and we've gone
yeah.
for
I have a
Pitt.
feeling they're going to cause Aaron Rodgers some
And you've
problems,
gone for
but
the Chargers. Interesting. You're going for the 4 into the 19. Interesting. Next
yeah.
up, we've got the Cardinals. Look, they're a very different team now than they were for a few of those years in the
Yeah,
wilderness.
yeah, yeah.
Next up, Cardinals and at Saints. Oof. Oof.
Yeah, this is going to be an ugly game, at least on one side of it. I mean, the Saints. I don't think we've emphasized enough. The Saints are going to be absolutely dog shit this year. Like there's no escaping that this is a team that is not designed to win games. They've basically stripped all of their talent and are paying. I've just got a bunch of guys to fill the roster because they're in cap hell. I mean, they are willingly putting Spencer Rattler under center at quarterback. I think the Saints are going to be absolutely horrendous here. So it's the more interesting part of this is the Cardinals, right? Where are the Cardinals at? Are they going to be able to move forward? The big thing is obviously the Gannon era. It's kind of been a little bit stagnating. That they haven't really clicked defensively as much as they'd want to. It's going to be interesting to see if they can kind of show that forward progress. I mean, they continue to go with Kyler Murray as their quarterback. Again, we talked about Lawrence being under the microscope. I think
This is his
it,
year as well, yeah.
again, if Kyler Murray doesn't have a good year here, the Cardinals are going to have to start asking questions. Do we start to look elsewhere because he may not be the guy? So in a game like this, where you're facing a team that's just absolutely terrible, I would expect the Cardinals, if they want to have a good year, they should be coming to New Orleans and winning by maybe 20 points. As kind of a sign of this, we're
Yeah.
serious this year. And if they're not doing that, if they're struggling, if they're winning with a last minute field goal or they're struggling to hold them down the fourth quarter, then there are going to be a lot of questions about the Cardinals as well.
Yeah, interestingly, on their quarterback situation, the amount of money it would cost to cut Kyler Murray or to trade him halves next year. So
Oh,
literally at the end
interesting.
of this season. So if they want to get rid of him this season, I think they'd owe him $100 million, which is a little bit too much money. But next year it'll be 50, and if you're going with a rookie quarterback, that's an affordable number to spread over 2 years. So like, yeah, I would have antennas up there for his performance this year. Giants at Commanders. Will New York be fun this year? That's a real question because they were real hard to watch in the Danny Dimes years. Russell's going to be under center. He's still got a good deep ball. He's got a lot of limitations to how he likes to play, so we'll see how long he stays there. All reports are that Jackson Dart is already very much waiting in the wings. The staff love him. They think he's going to be great. They kind of want to put him in. But we discussed previously the Giants' start to the season is horrible. Their schedule is brutal this year, so I totally get them not wanting to dump him out straight away. On the other side, we've got the Commanders who had a massive season last year, and the question is, will they hit a sophomore slump here? Can it continue? We mentioned that Scary Terry's, back in. He might be a little bit not up to speed, having missed most of camp, but he's a vet and should be able to hop in. They've got weapons. They've got their running back situation squared away. You'd hope that the Commanders should be able to come in here and absolutely romp, but New York has, outside of big question marks of what that offense is going to look like, is they have a pretty tasty pass rush. They have a decent defense, and what what would be the one knock on Commander's QB if you were to put it? It's that he holds onto the ball too long. It's that he tries to do too much. He'll try to run around, and they have fast, quick closing pass rushers. He shouldn't have to hold onto the ball too long. This Giants defense isn't great in the backfield, but yeah, like that's the only route to success for the Giants here is to get after him early and get after him often. And I don't think they're going to have enough in this anyway. I think the Commanders should be able to walk this one. So I'm going with Washington by a distance shot.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the big question with Washington this year is can they turn the surprise package into something more sustainable? And this is going to be an interesting test of that because this is the Commanders coming in to an environment in which the other team is going to be quite familiar. They're divisional rivals, so they're going to know each other quite well. So I imagine the Giants have been planning for how to deal with Daniels and the various things that he showed in the run last year. So this is going to be the first time. This is going to be an interesting first test as to is there more to Jane Daniels than just that what we saw in that magical run? Does he have the diversity to escape the sophomore slump and a game against something like the Giants, who have an okay defense and will cause them problems? I think that's going to be an interesting test. What's going on? The biggest problem in this game, though, is that the Giants. I just don't really see them having an awful lot offensively. in terms of point scoring. So the Commanders may not need to do that much to win. So I think the more interesting thing is how well the Commanders do it, I suppose, in terms of the victory.
I think the Giants are not going to be consistent on offense, but I think they will be able to put up points. I think they're going to be one of those weird, annoying, streaky teams where like you'll have entire quarters with no points and then quarters with two touchdowns. It's going to be all over the shop because they're chaos merchants, and that will only increase if they ever let Jameis Winston see the field, and will only tamper down when Jackson Dart is allowed to come in and throw some balls because he seems to be a little bit more copped on. Next up, Sean, Buccaneers at Falcons.
Yeah, obviously a big NFC South game. The Bucks are the big dogs in the NFC South, and the Falcons are probably the team closest to unseating them. So this is kind of this is one of the biggest games probably of the season for the Falcons to get their home game against the Bucks because they really do need to win this if they want to kind of build up the momentum to winning the champ to winning the division. Obviously, the big question for the Falcons will be what do they look like on the offensive side with Michael Penix Jr. under center. I mean, there's an awful lot of talent on that offense. You think about Bijan, you think about Drake London. Okay, you have Kyle Pitts still as their starting tight end for some reason, but there's enough there on the offensive side that they can be quite exciting when they need to be. And then, they've got a bit of spiciness going on the defensive side as well. I'm a big fan of Jesse Bates. So the Falcons have pieces, as I talked about in the preview. It's how that will all come together. But the Bucks, I feel, are the more complete package. They're basically the same team as last year come together. So they would be expected to win. And it's going to be interesting to see maybe more anything else than what Baker Mayfield looks like in the post Liam Cohen era. Does he manage to continue his kind of his renaissance in the absence of the guy who did so much work for him? There is apparently some sort of mini injury crisis thing where the Falcons have lost multiple tackles. So that'll be interesting to see if the Bucks try and exploit that with a couple of reserve guys on the line. But it's the NFC South, so don't expect it to be enjoyable. But it's an interesting test for where these two teams are. Are the Bucks still the guys to beat the NFC South, or do the Falcons actually have a decent chance this year?
Yeah, like I'm excited to see Michael Penix in this one, see what he looks like. The tail end of the year when he got to take over, the offense just looked very different. Like their last three games, they put up 34, 24, 38 points. Like that's impressive. That's exciting. That's a world apart from what we were seeing out of Kirk Cousins. So I'm going with Atlanta on this one, just because I think the Buccaneers are going to be very good, but I like the little bit of an upset, particularly without a huge amount of tape on this guy and them having an off season to work it in. Yeah, I'm just kind of I could see it going either way, but I like the idea of Falcons getting a little sneaky one here. Bengals at Browns is up next. Yeah, here's a fun one for you, Sean. The Bengals are 1-9 in weeks one and two when Burrow
Wow,
starts.
that is
That's a
ugly. That
trend
is
they're going to be
ugly.
looking to book this year, I think, particularly when you're playing at the Browns. Like everyone is signed, but the defense was probably still not going to be great. Hendrickson is very good in his own, but an entire defense he does not make. The Browns are rolling with Flacco. They're hoping he's solid enough to avoid further QB controversy. You don't want to end week one with people calling for Shador Sanders to come in again. Like they've got a good defense. That's kind of all they've got to hang their hat on. Uh, and I just don't know. The Bengals should, to kind of what you were saying about the Cardinals, the Saints, the Bengals should walk in here and they should drop 40 points on them, and it shouldn't really be a contest. But I am slightly worried about just how bad this Bengals defense is going to look this year. And if Flacco is to have a good game, it'll probably be before he has 2 or 3 weeks of 300-pound men crushing his aged spine to dust. So maybe there's a chance for the Browns to be competitive in this. I don't really see it at the moment, barring the Bengals starting super duper slow like they have in recent years. I know it's a rivalry game. I know they hate each other, but like even the Browns, like their running back room is a little bit of a mess. Their wide receiver room is a bit of a mess. They got an okay tight end, which will probably help Flacco a bit, but like yeah, like there's nothing that makes me go, yeah, this is a viable route for the Browns to success. Success for the Browns is dependent entirely on the Bengals shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, I mean this is definitely kind of a must-win statement game for the Bengals if they do want to show that last season was a blip that they can move beyond, and they're back to being a team that will compete at the top end of the AFC. And the slow starts do kind of kill the Bengals in terms of the seeding. That they often have worse seeding than they should do in the playoffs because they don't tend to start the season well. So this is a game they have to win, and win well. And it would be really nice to see it all clicking on week one. The Burrow, Chase, Higgins, it all kind of comes together, and the various compromise they made on the defense don't show up too well. The Browns, they shouldn't. Yeah, you're right. The Browns shouldn't really have an awful lot going for it. Flacco, we know what he is. He's capable of having good games, but he's also an old guy who has as many misses as he has hits these days. And the turmoil below him in the QB room can't be helpful for how long he thinks he's going to stay in there. And they do have a decent defense, so they're going to be it's a game that will probably, because it's AFC North, will probably also be quite an ugly game. So I fear this will be one of those red zone games where we don't actually see that much of it because there really isn't all that much happening. But it'll come down to a last minute field goal or whatever.
Mm.
Yeah, the Bengals really do need to win because if they don't win this one, we can probably start to write them off already. Because getting to that stage of the Bengals where they're definitely in win now, so they need to start winning. Would be the advice that I give to Zach Taylor.
Yeah, like the Bengals are playing the Browns and the Ravens are playing the Bills. Like, the Bengals should have a game up after that or at least be tied. So, like, that would
Yeah,
be the
yeah.
hope. But yeah, no. Speaking of Joe Flacco, let's look next at Pete Carroll going to take on. What year is it? Raiders at Patriots.
Yeah, it's the Josh McDaniels Bowl. Will he's return to the Pats rescue's reputation? I'm going to say probably not. I think Drake May will do best to the less he listens to McDaniels. I guess the more interesting part of this is that you got two quite good veteran head coaches. Admittedly, one a bit more veteran than the other. Pete Carroll he's in his 70s, I think, coming to the Raiders, and Mike Vrabel coming home to the Pats. So it's going to be interesting which of those two get off the ground a little bit faster because both these teams were kind of messy bad last year. The Pats maybe a little bit less messy bad. So it's going to be interesting to see how these are two new projects basically. These are two guys, solid, reliable. We respect them as head coaches, and this is day one of the project, and it's going to be interesting which how they start off from that point. I'm interested to see if Drake May continues to impress and improve and look like he could be the real deal. And then on the Raiders side, I mean, there's a little bit of spiciness in that offense now. You've got Gino, who we know what he can do, and we know what his ceiling is, and you've got Brock Bowers, who's probably the best tight end in the league right now, and you've got Ashton Janty, the hot rookie running back. So they could do some things on the offensive side, and obviously Vrabel is a defensive guy, so the Pats will probably be doing some interesting things on their side. So that'll be an interesting battle to see how those two work out. But yeah, both these teams want to get good starts to their various projects. And I kind of feel that the Pats are maybe in a little bit better position, especially in terms of where their offense is at, in terms of Drake May, to give them the edge. But I would expect the Raiders to be a decent team this year, and I think we'll begin to see the beginning of that here.
Yeah, no, I think they will. Certainly going to be more competitive than they have been in recent years. Although defensive depth is always a concern, and hopefully that'll allow the Patriots to get off to a strong start. You're right, Sean. Pete Carroll is 73 and will be turning 74 next week. So it is it is
He
quite
sh-
a.
he should be sitting on the beach, man.
Oh God, yeah. It's interesting though because these are two as you say projects, but they're two projects that are taking very similar approaches where both of these coaches are not just instilling their systems onto the thing, but like both of these coaches have brought in a lot of their own guys to plug into the system, so it should hopefully hit the ground running a little bit quicker than if they were just taking over and just had to train everyone up on it. So I think it'll be an interesting matchup, but I'm with you. I think the Patriots, particularly being at home here, should be able to win over on that one. Next up, 49ers at the Seahawks. We're going to get to have a look at this new, probably run first offense for Seattle and the defense that I think is got the potential to be the best defense in the league this year. I think them and the Broncos are right up there as well. And then on the other side, we've got a 49ers team who, are injury riddled with a weaker defense than they have had in recent years, but, with clear advantages in other sections like, quarterback. Even with the injuries to wide receivers, they have more probably depth there. Like Jackson Smith and Jigba is an excellent wide receiver one, but like Cooper Cup is your two, Jake Bobo, like that's kind of where you're going on that. So this is going to be the Seahawks trying to just run it down their throats. This is a 49ers defense that's missing a bunch of players that they've had beforehand and are going to be relying on Salah coming in and whipping their guys into shape and being able to figure something out. So I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be interesting. I think these guys know each other very well and are going to, be able to scheme well against each other. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be the most explosive game in the world. I think the Seahawks are going to try and be a defensive run first. I think the 49ers are going to, try and run CMC into the ground and then just target Pearsall and George Kittle outside of that, and that's it. And I think both are going to find success. I think it's going to make for an exciting game. I am going to side with the 49ers in this one. I think they've just got the edge, because also realistically, if they can get pass rush after Sam Darnold, we need to see which Sam Darnold is. Is it Sam Darnold from week 10 or is it the Sam Darnold from week 17? Because those are two very different versions of Sam Darnold from last year that might have just been entirely dependent on the coaching staff. So there's a lot to learn from this game. I don't expect it to be fireworks, but I think it's going to be very interesting. And I think if you like defensive football, watch the Seattle side of the ball.
Yeah, no, I mean obviously we're in with the Seahawks we don't really know what we're going to be getting, but there's a lot of interest and there's a lot of hype and you know they've got definite strengths, but there's still an awful lot of question marks. Whereas the Niners are a team that at full strength, which the Niners never are, but at full strength they are one of the best teams, at least one of the best offenses in the league. And it's more about how they replace the pieces that have fallen injured and how they continue to make things work. I mean, the problem with the Niners is the more of their skill position players get injured, the more the burden falls on Brock Purdy, and that's not really his job. He's a facilitator. He's not a guy who goes out there and wins games single handedly. So the Niners, it's about staying healthy, and they are already failing at that. But it's going to be interesting to see where they're at because it kind of feels like the Niners maybe the Shanahan project is stalling a bit. They had their Super Bowl run. They've had
Hmm.
two Super Bowl runs, but they had their real Super Bowl run where they actually had a chance of winning it, and they just weren't good enough in the end. They fell short in overtime, and since then it's kind of been downhill. And this season kind of marks are they continuing the downward trajectory, or are they going to have this weird thing that Shanahan Niners teams have, which is they have a bad year because of injuries, and then the next year they tend to have quite a good year because the players get healthy again. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Niners can bounce back. But the Seahawks, yeah, I'm really interested to see how this turns out because there seems to be a real they're obviously moving beyond the Pete Carroll era, which was such a big part of the Seahawks' identity for so long that now they're trying to forge something else. It's going to be interesting to see what that something else actually looks like.
Yeah, so we've gone for San Francisco, Ronan's gone for Seattle. Next up, we have the battle of the two syllables, Sean. Bo Nix, Cam Ward, Titans, Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, this isn't the most interesting game to watch, mostly because the Titans are just not a very good team. It's obviously going to be Cam Ward's debut. It's going to be it's a road game up a mountain against a defense that is quite good. I mean,
Oh, yeah, massively powerful defense.
Peyton's gotten that defense into a very good place. So this is going to be a real. I mean, expect to see maybe Cam Ward getting a lot of sacks and a lot of interceptions. Like I think it's going to be a rough opening day for the guy who probably doesn't deserve to be the number one QB in the draft kind of situation. So the Titans, I don't have an awful lot of hope for them this season. The Broncos are going to be quite interesting to watch because obviously Sean Payton has seemed to have turned this Broncos team into something interesting, especially on the defensive side, but maybe more surprisingly, the offense quite looks good. There is a history apparently that they have of the last few seasons. They've tended to start quite slowly, the Broncos have, and spent a lot of season trying to catch up. So this is an opportunity to kind of get a fast start out the gate and to really get competitive because in the Chiefs and Chargers, you've got two really good teams in your division. You kind of need to take all the wins that you can get from where they go. And the other question to me is how will Bo Nix look? We were all a bit surprised that he turned out to be not garbage, me especially. I remember looking back actually at the week zero sheet from last year, and I had Bo Nix down as the hype train crash, and
Oof.
now we're coming in being like, oh, he might be the guy. I'm still not 100% convinced in him, but
Yeah.
he's a lot better than we thought he would be. It's going to be interesting to see now the teams have some tape on him and have a little bit of better sense of who he is and what his limitations is, how they might deal with that. But in this week one home game against the Titans, that shouldn't be a problem. I think the Broncos should be comfortable here.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Cam Ward looks like, but I also don't think that this will be necessarily that representative. I think this is going to be, as you said, a baptism of fire for this fella. It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. Lions and Packers up next. Micah Parsons has helped make that Packers defense even scarier. But as I mentioned, there's question marks around, is he possibly injured? Will he be on a snap count and so on? So this Packers defense is going to have to face off against angry Dan Campbell offense. So say it's been noted by myself and others that Dan Campbell is very clearly a little bit irked by how much of the media is talking about Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson's a genius and Ben Johnson's incredible, and oh, aren't the Lions going to struggle without Ben Johnson? And he wants to prove that Ben Johnson's loss won't kill this offense. He wants to make sure that they can still do what they're doing. And you look at the pieces they've got. Jameer Gibbs is a superstar. Dave Montgomery's an excellent backup. Amon Ra is phenomenal. Jameson Williams is great WR2. Sam Laporta is a great tight end. They've got a solid line, even though there's a couple of injuries to it. And on the defensive side, they've got their guys back. Hutchinson is back from injury. They've bolstered a lot of those troops. Their back end is pretty strong. This is an exciting Lions team going up against a Packers team that is also incredibly strong now on both sides of the ball. Like I said, Parsons being in there is going to help, but like even if he's not in, if he's on a snap count, you sub in Lucas Van Ness or something like that. Like you've got quality, Rashawn Gary and everything all throughout there. You've got a good looking back end of that defense as well now with some of the acquisitions. And then the offensive side, Jordan Love was a little bit up and down last year, but we saw more up than down. They've added Matthew Golden. Jaden Reed is he's got a foot fracture of some kind, but he's going to be playing through it. Romeo Dobbs, I'm not sure. I've got a feeling he had some kind of injury thing, but I wasn't sure. And Tucker Kraft played well for them. Like this should be an exciting, well fought game. I think strength on strength will be good. Like we've got this Lions offense versus this Packers defense. We've got this Packers offense versus this Lions defense. How they want to play the games line up well against what the other side is good at. I think this will be a cracker. But I also think that means that some parts will be stalematy. Like some parts will be negated, and it won't be quite as there'll be highlight moments in it. But I don't think it's going to be like constantly being cut to on red zone or anything like that. But I think this is going to be a perfect example of really high quality football being played by two good teams with good coaching with good players. Like it's a phenomenal game. If I was to pick one to attend, I think it would either be this or Sunday Night Football. Like this is a cracker.
Yeah, again, it's the whole what are they doing putting this in week one question mark. But yeah, this is the real test for obviously the Lions. Have suddenly found themselves as being the kind of the big guys in the NFC North, and the Packers are coming back for their to take their title back, and they've added a really big piece on the defensive side. So there's obviously a lot going on. I'm very interested actually in where the Lions are because the Dan Campbell era of the Lions has always been the plucky underdog that gets slightly better every year. They've been on an upward trajectory all the way through to the divisional round last year when they lost to Commanders. That was kind of the first major unexpected setback where they were a favorite to win a game in a big situation and they fell short. And so it's about picking themselves up. It's about now that they are an established kind of team at the upper echelon of the NFC, they've got to hold on to that onto that perch, and that's a whole new dynamic for what's going on. And when you lose your highly touted, let's call him that, nothing else, highly touted offensive coordinator, and your GC as well, you've got an awful lot of got to have to navigate those changes. So I think this is going to be quite a challenging year for Dan Campbell. I'm interested to see how this kicks off straight away. They've so much talent on the offensive side and quite a bit of talent on the defensive side as well. The line should be okay, but this is the big challenge, right? I don't expect the Vikings to be able to win 14 games this year. So if anyone's going to take the NFC North crown off the Lions, it's going to be the Packers. And
Hmm.
as we talked about, they've got an awful lot going on both sides of the ball now. And so it's going to be interesting to see if they can come together. Obviously, the Parsons thing, him being slightly injured and it being a kind of a late trade, he might not be integrated quite enough into the Packers D if he does play all that much. But it'll be interesting to see if there's snatches of it. Um, and it'll also be interesting to see how much this Packers offense continues to evolve with Matthew Golden and such like. So I think it's going to be quite a good game. And I kind of fear that the Lions might slightly maybe they might still be the better team, but I don't think they quite have momentum on their side coming into this game. I think the Packers will be up for this, especially at home, to make a statement, and I think they will make that statement. So I'm gonna give the Packers a slight edge here to win, but I do expect it to be a
Hmm.
close one and a good one.
Yeah, no, I've gone Detroit in this one, whereas you both have gone Green Bay. I think element of that trade that's lost. Kenny Clark was probably their best guy against the run, and this Detroit team is a hell of a run game.
True, true.
Texans at Rams up next, Sean.
Yeah, it's a question. A lot of questions of injuries here. Actually, Matt Stafford is being wrapped in bubble wrap, and it's unclear as to whether or not he'll actually play. So it might be Jimmy G time in LA. And it's going to be interesting to see. McVay has some history of turning, questionably talented quarterbacks into serviceable to his purposes quarterbacks. We don't have to think about, the run that Baker had, or the early era Goff. That even if they do end up with just Jimmy G, I think still the Rams will be good offensively. And the biggest question, obviously, with the Rams has been they've got an awful lot of front-loaded talent, but the depth, especially on the defensive side, is quite weak. So it'll be interesting to see if they have that balance right this year. On the Texan side, they won't have Joe Mixon, so their run game will probably run through Nick Chubb. Be interesting to see how they work that out. To me, the bigger question is the CJ Stroud question. Obviously, he took quite a bit of a step. It's such an amazing rookie year, and then took a bit of a step back last year with the sophomore slump. It's going to be interesting to see, has he learned how to overcome the magic of the rookie year. He's got a lot of good pieces still around him, Nico Collins, etc. So there's definitely reasons to be optimistic about the Texans going forward, but I think they need to start figuring out how to take that next step. And this will be an interesting test for them because the Rams are not an easy team to play under any circumstances. So I think it'll be a good game for judging where these teams are, and how we can expect from them this season, how they compete with one another. I decided to go for the Rams. I'm surprised we went across the board Rams. I expected maybe a punt or two for the Texans. But again, I think it'll be a good game and probably a close one. But I think the Rams' home field advantage, and a little bit in a better place in terms of their evolution. I think to give them the win.
Yeah, like I've edged the Rams in this one, and mostly just because I think it'll be close. I think the Texans will be better this year, but I look at this Rams team. I look at the damage they do down the middle with that front seven, and I kind of go, well, what was the problem that the Texans had last year? Their offensive line was terrible. That's not great. Did they fix it? Yeah, they traded away their best tackle, and if anything, they've downgraded. They've got new faces, but I don't think it's better. So that's why I'm slightly sitting around. But yeah, I think realistically, if Jimmy G is playing, I think I would swap that to the Texans. I do think it's that kind of level of the small changes would really make a big difference. Sunday night football, Ravens at Bills, yet another chapter in the what the fuck are they doing putting this in week one? Absolute monster. Repeated the divisional round from last year. Yeah, it doesn't feel like this should be maybe in the middle of the season when everyone's up and running and it's a bit more fun.
I
The
mean,
two
what's
bright,
annoying is that they threw away this game in week three last year when it was the other way around with the Bills at the Ravens. It was a week
yeah,
three, which is also too early for this game. So yeah,
yeah.
they really don't know how to use it.
It's a repeat of the divisional round from last year. The two bridesmaids of the AFC, as we'll call them, get to push each other for an early advantage. Obviously, these are two teams who are not just eyeing up their divisions, they're eyeing up the Super Bowl. And in particular, in a matchup like this, they're eyeing up potential postseason seeding implications. Uh, and looking to push for an early advantage there. We talked a little bit about the Bills earlier, but essentially, the Bills' defense is a hot mess at the moment. They coaching staff have come out and have said, look, they're not happy with it. They will probably be moving people around. That there is, they don't have the personnel to run the kind of defensive backfield that they want to run. And look, that's not the worst thing to be in a bad spot against the Ravens because this is a Ravens team that does like to go to the ground, particularly early in the season. They tend to use Henry. Henry's fresher at this time of year as well, so we'll see a bit of that. We'll see a bit of Lamar on the move as well. But realistically, if this Bills back end of the defense is as bad as it looks on paper and as bad as all reports at a camp have been, I think the Ravens are just going to start passing on them because realistically, why not? The Bills' offense should be really good. I'm expecting big things out of them. I think we saw growth from the rookies last year. I think they paid James Cook. They're locked in. They know what they're doing. Um, They might because it's early season have slightly less crazy Josh Allen, less body on the line Josh Allen. Although in a game of this scale, I imagine if it's close, he will be immediately reverting back to form on that one. But this Ravens defense is still incredibly talented. Maybe missing a few pieces from beforehand, but still incredibly talented. I would expect, and I know I'm booking the trend this, I'm expecting Baltimore to win this one just because of how out of sorts the Bills defense looks to me. But you know what? I'm happy for it if they kind of come up and surprise us and they go, no, we've got it figured out. We were just kind of hiding stuff schematically in the preseason, in training camp, and to reporters. But I just feel the Ravens are a team that are ready to hit the ground running, literally with Henry in many cases, whereas the Bills they'll be good, but I'm not sure this defense is going to hold up against the cream of the AFC crop.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one, and I can definitely see the argument for the Ravens because the Ravens always come. They always tend to start the season well, and they always seem to come prepared. John Harbaugh and his team have consistently done a very good job being prepared, especially in the early weeks for what's coming for them. So I definitely could see a situation where they're in a better position than the Bills are, given the Bills' defensive messiness, and they take the win. But I mean, if we are to believe that the Buffalo Bills are in a potential championship year, you can't be going losing week one Sunday night football, regardless of who you're playing at home. I think Josh Allen, he just has that Josh Allenness. He has that ability to just make a game bend to his will when he needs to. He knows how to put when to put his body on the line and when to not. I suspect because of the seating implications, this won't be the usual week one Josh Allen where he's kind of avoiding doing the really risky things. I think he'll be diving for first downs. I think he'll be pushing himself to the limit to try and win this one, and that could ultimately be enough. I do kind of wish this was a week 7, week 8, even week 13 kind of game. Um, but at least whoever loses will have the excuse that it's only week one and they're trying to get together. But yeah, I expect this one could be a big deal in who gets the 1 or 2 seed or who gets the 2 and 3 seed down the stretch. But I gotta go with the hype. I gotta stick to the Bills for now. But if the Ravens win this one comfortably, as they did last year, I think they won 35-10 last year, albeit in Baltimore. I think that could put a real damper on this whole championship furore that has been built around Buffalo.
Yeah, I think the difference is if this is a loss for the Bills, it's not a killer because the Bills' first 6 games are they've got they're home for Ravens, tough. Then they're at Jets, home for Dolphins, at Saints, at Patriots, home for Falcons. Like they have a lot of winnable games in that opening 6 to make it look normal. The Ravens open with Bills, Browns, Lions, Chiefs, Texans, Rams. Like I think in terms of who can weather a loss in week one, it's definitely the Bills more than it is the Ravens. Although they all count the same at the end of the season, just for team morale. I think there's a slightly less of an impact. And finally, Sean, Monday Night Football. They saved the for all these
Yeah,
games, and your Monday Night Football is Vikings at Bears.
well, it's the Ben Johnson experience. It's the hype train
Yeah.
coming in.
Oh God, they'll be
Can
insufferable if the Lions lose as well. Oh God, it'll just be all the coverage for the day, won't it?
So yeah, I mean, obviously the big question we're looking for is where are the Bears at as an organization and as a team? There's been a decent amount of preseason optimism. I wouldn't quite call it hype, but definitely people saying that the Bears are a much better team now and Ben Johnson's got it going. And obviously, the big question is where is Caleb Williams and how far along in his development will he be? It's probably a bit too early week one to expect him to have all the various kinks ironed out, but it'll be interesting to see how far along in the process that they are. Uh, on the other side, I mean, the Vikings. It's a JJ McCarthy era, right? It's the guy who's injured in his rookie year who's come back, and you know, is there any reason to believe this will be much better? We can trust that because of what the Vikings did last year and the coaching system that they have, that this will be a good team. We have no reason to believe that the Vikings won't be a decent team. They've consistently been a decent team under Kevin O'Connell. But and especially on the defensive side, I know Ronan has a lot of love for the Vikes defense and on what Brian
Yeah.
Flores offers for them. So there'll be an interesting challenge there, certainly. I mean, in terms of the Ben Johnson versus Flores thing and Caleb Williams versus this defense, there is a dynamic there that'll be very interesting to see how it plays out. But it's again, it's the problem is it's why are you putting this on prime time? This Bears team is, if they are going to be good, they're not going to be week one ready. Like, have a look at the Bears when they're like week 5 or week 6 and things are starting to come together. Don't throw them out there in week one, and if it all goes to hell, then you can start the recrimination. So I think it'll be interesting, but I don't expect to see in either of these cases that this game will tell us an awful lot about where the teams will end up, because I think these are both teams that are going to build them into themselves as the season
Hmm.
goes along. And so this will only give us a very small amount of evidence about where these teams are going to end up.
Yeah, like I think you're dead right. I think this is the thing. There's a lot of bits we want to see in this, but it's not going to be the best game. I want to see what JJ McCarthy looks like. I want to see why they were so sure that they, could just let Sam Darnold go and this would all be okay. I want to see what Caleb Williams looks like in this Ben Johnson offense. I want to see if they're doing a similar thing to what they did in Detroit or whether they're doing something else. And then some of that falls apart, as you say, when rubber hits the road here. Yeah, I kind of want to see what Caleb Williams looks like in this Ben Johnson offense. But given the weird exotic looks that Flores throws at you, uh, if the problem and the knock that was happening on Caleb Williams last year was that he wasn't up to processing speed in the NFL, like we're not going to see whether that's going to be the case here because this is going to be as tough a test for processing speed as you're going to get working out what defenses are. Ben Johnson will be there to help him. Ben Johnson obviously knows this Vikings defense, having played them multiple times. But like, yeah, and then on the other side, this Bears defense, do we think they're going to be all that? Like, is this going to be a truly representative view of what JJ McCarthy's offense is going to look like? Do we have confirmation of who he's throwing the balls to at the moment? Because, like, I know that JJ still kind of has an injury designation, but is expected to play. Jordan Addison is gone, so like, there, it's. It's a weird one because there's a lot that I want to see, and I'm not sure how much of it I'm actually going to get to watch, or how much I'm actually going to get to understand after the end of this game.
Yeah, I mean it's this is thing you should stick this into if they stuck this in red zone and it was a game you popped up every 5 minutes and something interesting was happening, it would be good fun to watch. But I'd much rather have the Lions Packers in this slot, to be
Oh
honest.
God,
You
yeah.
could actually pick it apart and watch it as it went.
Lions,
Yeah.
Packers, Ravens, Bills, even 49ers, Seahawks. I would
Yeah.
stick in there like Chiefs, Chargers is already on a prime already. So, but yeah, like there's lots of other ones that would be more entertaining to throw in here. But yeah, no, it is what it is. We've gone for Minnesota across the board, so it's an interesting spread. I've got three picks where I'm on my own. I've got Atlanta, Detroit, and Baltimore. I'm on my own. Ronan's got Carolina and Seattle when he's on your own, and you have the Chargers and the Jets as your solo picks. Strong,
Yep.
strong.
I
The
choose to believe.
the
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers hate flows strong. Very good.
Yeah.
So that's week one. It's a surprisingly tasty slate of games. I think yeah, a few of them are maybe in the wrong place on the schedule, but overall pretty good. Yeah, I'm excited for it. Are you excited, Sean?
Oh yeah, I'm excited to get back to it. It's
Mm,
been a long summer.
very good. Any
Uh,
plans for the rest of the week yourself between now and then, or?
I got to grapple with Amazon ads and how to publicize a book. Is my week ahead, and then I've also got continuing to close in on my driving test, which is in a few weeks' time. So
Vroom
getting
vroom.
used to the car is also on the agenda. But
Very good.
yeah,
How
yeah.
are you at driving at the moment, Sean? Are you good, bad? What do
The
you
the
reckon?
automatic is a lot easier, I will say. For those of you who are struggling with manual, I would say the automatic is definitely a step up in terms of it's fewer things to think about, which when you're learning to drive is a very big difference. I'm getting decent at the driving part. It's the parking thing and the tight turns
Hmm.
that can be a bit of a challenge. But definitely getting better each time I go out there, I would like to
Very
say.
good. Oh, that's what you want to hear. Hopefully now, and you can then take us out on road trips then once you're done. Be
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah, yeah.
Very good. Well, yeah, I've got nothing major planned myself now. Nothing too. I was going to go and have a look down at the Irish Open on Thursday, but decided I'm not gonna be able to make it down in time. So no point. So Other than that, nothing too wild or crazy. You know, yourself, a few bits and pieces. Bit of Dungeons and Dragons. You know, we're past the summer now, so having starting back into a couple of those games, and yeah, looking forward to watching some football. So I suppose that'll wrap us up for this week. So it's bye from myself. It's bye from Sean.
Bye.
This has been all four quarters. Thanks for listening, and we will chat to you next week. You're right, we're back in the season next week.